Dean?
Came about because of an exercise that I did with a client about 4 weeks ago. This has been I've done this hundreds and hundreds of times now. And we have to run through a positioning exercise to sort of figure out where they are in their marketplace, what their strengths and weaknesses are. But most importantly, what's their angle, right, in their messaging? They don't have to change anything about their business, but in their messaging, what's their angle? What's going to be new or novel enough so that it will fit into, and this is sort of a crude analogy that it comes from a book back in the 60s, I think, called Positioning by Reese and Trout. And those are two people. It's not somebody whose first name is Reese and his last name is Trout. Al Reese, Jack Trout, I think their names were. And right, but I mean, they latched onto something that is still true today, which is that everybody's day is full. Everybody's mind is like full of distractions and other stuff and things they need to get done. And if you're going to be remembered at all, and you don't want to be outrageous, since most of my customers, nearly all of them, are B2B companies, like they don't do outrageous, they don't do emotionally charged messaging or any of that stuff, and neither do I really. But they have to have an angle, they have to have some box in a stranger's head, a prospect's head, that is unfilled, that they can slot into. Because slotting into one that's someone else is already in, it's very hard, right? I mean, how long has Pepsi been trying to be the number one cola? Very
Seems like
hard
forever. Yeah,
to
it's very hard.
player, right? So really, the only you can spend decades and tons of money, or you can figure out some new box that even the prospect didn't know, there was a category for. I mean, the best thing you can ever hear from a prospect is a two-part sentence. I never knew that existed. Take my money. And ultimately, that's what you're aiming for in a lot of different things. The problem is that people forget that they have to be positioning all the time, and all of their outbound comms are a positioning statement. Right? Every webinar or live event that I do for someone, right, writing for them, every video that you're making for someone, even
Yeah.
these videos, really, in a way, they're all
Mhm.
positioning exercises, right? There's a position for somebody that they didn't know existed, and Dean Way's in it. I'm not saying it's ever going to lead to anything, but
But now
there's
they
only
know.
one of you, there's only one of me. This is how we do it.
Mhm.
So people take their eye off the ball, and they they start thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to give information. I'm just going to do a repeated touch point." And take their eye off the ball, that every single time any communication goes out in any way, emails, TV ad, whatever, it's a positioning statement. Some percentage of the people seeing it have never seen you before, and some have. But either way, there's a slot in their head that you need to be in, and you're like, if you're not going in there, then you've wasted that opportunity. So, what's the biggest challenge, do you think, in getting someone to like buy into the fact that all of their external communications are positioning? And then what should they, what's the number one lesson or number two lesson to learn from that?
Well, it's funny, I think we kind of hit on this the other day a little bit that most of the time businesses very informational
Yeah.
about what they're putting together. They don't think of how important it is. You can't get the sale until you ask for it. And so we never really, or a lot of us never really think that far. We aren't attracted to the sales process. And so at the end of the day, we forget to ask for the sale or tell them, hey, this is the next step with us,
Right.
or way to get started.
Yeah. Focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Focus is,
Focus is key.
people get bored with their own messaging and sending it out over and over again, and they think that the audience is getting bored. The audience doesn't pay nearly as much attention to you as you think, and they're not watching everything and reading everything that you're putting out there, so they don't have as much exposure to it as you think. And then I liked exactly what you said. And people, what they do is, in lieu of asking for the sale, they actually get distracted by something else prior to it, which is they won't settle on and then just repeatedly hammer on one message,
Mm.
one aspect, one benefit. They say, oh, they won't really, and this is like, it's worse for small businesses than it is for big businesses. That they need to know everything about me before they would want to engage with me, right? People think that the know, like, and trust part of know is, I said that backwards, is that they need to know everything, and that's not what that means. Say, oh well, they need to know that what my hobby is, and that I coach little league, and
Mhm.
that I went to this school, and so on. And they need to know all this stuff, and I do. People ask you, when you're a small business, like, what do you do? And if you say more than two things, you've said way too many things, and really
Yeah,
think about just saying one thing. And it's like, but Dean, I don't want to turn away business, or I don't want to turn away prospects or opportunities. But that's how it works.
right.
We
But
don't think
people will
that people
figure
who
out
say they
what
do
you're
lots of
gonna.
stuff are good at
Yeah,
lots of stuff.
yeah. And people will figure out eventually, like what it is that you do, but you certainly do want to keep it as compact as possible. That's one of the things that I love about video too. It's a very quick way to get people to know, like, trust us faster in small bites.
Right,
So that works out really well. Just
right.
kind of like, in your case, the better the written word, the more attractive that's going to be to the customer, the clarity of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you were just saying there, what people will eventually get to know.
Mm,
You tell them one thing, you specialize in one thing, and then when after they become a customer and you're working with them, then that's the time to point out, I also do this other thing. Or they'll ask you, do you do this? And say, yeah, I
mhm.
can do that for you. But not to come at them with five things. You come at them with one thing. I hesitate to say even one or two things, because people will automatically just say, oh, he means two things. I can say two things. You say two things 5% of the time, and just one thing 95% of the time, and
Yeah.
just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do think it's important though to talk about things that we're about personally because people do like to buy, businesses do like to buy from people who are friends, and I do think that that does make a difference in a lot of cases. Like, it can't be all about business at the end of the day, because I do think a bit of your personality always comes through, and that does resonate with people.
Yeah,
If
I agree with
if you
that.
know what I'm saying. If
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with that. You
yeah,
have one main thing, and that's what you stress all the time. And then, but it's almost like you have a set of ships that are sailing towards your prospect, right? So there's one in the lead, and then like two behind that, and then three behind that. They can see the little bits maybe of
yep,
the other two, and then further on backwards, the other three, right?
yep.
They know that. I mean, nobody hires you thinking you literally only do logos,
No.
right? Like, oh, they only do logos, right? You need to fit in the logos box for their head. By the way, you don't have to be the only person or the only company on earth that does something to have to take that position. You just need to be the first or most prominent one for that prospect.
Yeah, I will say I think it's true for both of us, and we've said it in the past that it's good that we have familiarity with the surrounding areas of what we do, because I
Yeah,
know the other day you were saying that it's helped you a lot in the past being a copywriter and knowing about the funnels and
yes, very much so.
everything that's behind that. And I know with me, it's been helpful to know the technology behind different video systems and live video and conferencing softwares and all of that. A lot of people will come just knowing that and say, "Oh, I love that you are not so specialized, but that you've got that little bit of background and that you do understand the things that surround this." So you're going to see problems that may be popping up or challenges along the way.
No one has ever told me that they loved that I did something different than
Yeah.
my position for them.
Mm,
Maybe we're in different businesses that way.
yeah. I
Also, it
don't.
comes down to, scarcity, right? If it's
Mhm.
really hard to find someone who does what you do or in your specialty, then it's much less important what else you do,
Yes.
right? Whereas if there are
Yeah.
lots of people who do what you do, then adding on things after your primary message has been delivered for positioning purposes, adding on things or showing, like, other aspects of yourself or your business
Right.
is what helps differentiate you.
Yes.
Right? So if you're
Yep.
in a market where a lot of people do what you do, then a few extra elements, as long as they're aligned with what the customer thinks belongs to someone in that position, right? So if you produce corporate videos, they're not interested in how you are great at growing flowers,
Mhm.
right? Whereas they might be very interested in the fact that you can also do not just the video editing, but motion graphics,
Right.
right? Aligned,
Yep.
logically adjacent.
Things that are aligned, logically adjacent.
Yeah.
Yes. If it's
That you
too,
can get away with
yes.
as long as you have one message that you keep hammering home over and over and over, and everything else is logically adjacent.
Yeah, and as we said yesterday, it's important to be as specialized as possible because of other reasons.
Yeah.
So, and it just fits in with this too.
Yeah. I mean, this was last year, when I decided to really more formalize ghostwriting webinars for companies, it was rare enough that when I registered and then put a bunch of, wrote a bunch of articles and put a bunch of my writings and stuff up on webinarghostwriter.com, it took
Right.
me 4 days to become the number one organic search result on Google in multiple countries, because I've got clients in 6 countries, 6 continents.
Yeah.
I've got them all tested. They all say it's number one. There's a bunch of ads. If you scroll past the ads, the number one search result is Webinar Ghostwriter Dean Way. Right?
Beautiful.
It's a box that didn't exist. Now it's hyper specialized, and it means I doubt
Mhm.
that. I should check. I guess I've never done this, but I should check and see how many searches for Webinar Ghostwriter are
You
actually
should.
done in a year. I bet it's not very many. But everyone who does it, I'm the number one result. So
Very, very true.
taking your time and figuring out a positioning message and a specialized positioning message, it does take some time, but it's way cheaper than spending a bunch of money on advertising to get to the same point.
Mm. But that's funny you should say that. You'll have to remind me afterwards. I just thought of something that I think would be helpful for you.
Okay. Mysterious.
Park that. We'll leave the
Sure.
mysterious.
No
Maybe we'll talk
problem.
about it. Maybe we'll talk about it later,
Sure.
but I'll leave it as mysterious for now.
Well, I think we're going to have a short one today, which is good. They should be
It is
short once in
good.
a while. So I think just to reiterate on my points of what I'll tell you what, why don't I let you reiterate? You are the guest, the honored guest. Let me sort of, you can sum up, please, whatever you
Uh,
want to say and leave folks with.
sure, sure. I agree with you. We always have to be positioning. We always have to have a call to action with anything that we do, and really want to think through that, and make it simple. Make it one thing. Don't try to make it multiple calls to action. That doesn't work. It just confuses. The other thing that I made a point of is get people to know, like, and trust you faster. Best way is video, in my estimation.
Yeah.
But
To quickly convey emotion, there's nothing
yes,
beats video, right?
nothing
Other
beats
than being
video.
live, but you can't be live to like thousands of people a day.
No, and I've done the experiment of, actually working with students that then I was live with. It was like we were old friends that we'd
Yeah.
known each other our whole lives. So it literally is almost as good as having known them forever.
Yeah, people still,
Pretty wild.
strangers, they'll like, "Hey," they'll come into my sort of orbit as new clients, and they say, "Yeah, I've seen all your stuff." And I said, "Oh my god, it must take hours and hours to see all my stuff. Like, just the videos alone must take
I've
hours and
seen
hours
all
and
these
hours."
things.
Honestly, it always, like, sets me back a bit, right? It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
what the heck? Wow." I'm not used to people sort of doing their research on me like that.
That's probably another important positioning message that you just kinda came up with. Have as much stuff out as
Yeah,
possible for people to see because
stay on message and do it as often
yeah,
as you can.
yeah, because
Yep,
people will sit through and watch our stuff. It's like binge watching Netflix.
and then my
It's
summary would
although better
be
for your brain.
definitely better for your brain and your brand.
Way better.
I would just, building on that, because I think we're in alignment for once
Yeah.
on, this sort of thing. You're always
Only once?
positioning. All your comms are positioning. But yeah, we weren't on, yet with the discussion on AI, we definitely were
Not
not
too
on the
bad.
same
We're
page.
we're getting closer.
I would just say, and, as brutal as possible, as plain and simple and brutal as possible, strangers and people who don't know you don't care about you,
Yeah.
and they're not going to work hard to figure out where you fit in their life and their universe.
Mm.
And so it's your job to make that as simple as possible and easy and frictionless as possible by picking a position that either they've never heard of before, because or else it's truly unique, no one's ever done it before,
Right.
and then hammer on it over and over, long past the point where you're sick of saying it, because there's always way more people who haven't heard it than have, no matter how long you do it.
Always.
So you say one thing, you say it over and over and over, and you want it to be the only one in that particular category. And usually that involves coming up with an angle. A lot of people think you get to that by combining multiple things. Well, I'm the only life coach that deals with female resident doctors in the San Jose area who come from broken homes. I mean, you're just like adding a bunch of stuff. It seems like you're niching down. That's not actually an angle. That's just a Lego block approach to uniqueness until you come up with something that no one else has. Literally everybody can do that, and anything anybody can do is not special or unique. All right, I think that's about it today. Look at that,
I think
15
that
minutes.
wraps it up.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Usually I'm long-winded. All right. Thanks everyone. Thanks, John. Bye.